The traveling public, particularly here at Aspen and Snowmass, being such popular resorts, can do the best job of helping us by being informed as to what we are trying to do to help keep them safe every day as they travel. Part of that is just being aware of what the latest information is about what the items that can be carried on and as we change, just to make sure they're up to speed on things. Obviously, you have a number of high-profile people coming in. Sometimes that causes some attention and things, but really just being aware of their surroundings, and obviously if they see something suspicious, to report that immediately to local law enforcement. So people think of TSA and they think of airport security, and that's right, because that is our primary responsibility. But in addition to that, we try to work as a force multiplier for example, mass transit authorities, Amtrak, the hazardous material carriers over highways, all types of mass transit. But really our job is to work in partnership with those local agencies who have the responsibility as first responders and those who can do the best job of preventing something bad from happening in mass transit. So one of the things about Aspen Snowmass is that because it is such a worldwide known resort area, that it attracts high profile celebrities and people in the public arena. That unfortunately can also attract people who might want to make a name for themselves by doing something bad in this area. There's no specific information about that, but again, awareness of surroundings and being ready to report something that they see as being suspicious is the best line of defense.
Does it make a difference the type of facility that you work in?
Well, so each airport, for example, is different. You know, the old adage is if you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. And that's true because of the checkpoint configurations and the way the airlines and airports have the airport set up. That being said, the job of TSA is the same in every airport, and that's to make sure we are providing the best possible security in partnership with the traveling public.
So you have to be very flexible and work with whatever kind of setup that you get.
Yes, we do. So we obviously work very closely with the airport authorities and the airlines to say what is the best possible way that we can provide the most effective security in the most efficient way.
Do you want to share any success stories, recent success stories that the TSA has had?
Well, I think the traveling public, and perhaps particularly here in Aspen Snowmass, may be surprised to learn that we find 5 to 6 guns at checkpoints every day around the country. So over a weekend, we may have 15 to 18 guns that people have either forgotten about or otherwise, and so it's something that we are very focused on making sure that things such as guns obviously don't get on aircraft, but we also find other things, drug contraband, cash that is being used for illicit purposes and things. So a number of other things, but our key focus is to make sure that a terrorist cannot get on that aircraft.
So is the operation of the TSA any different in Aspen and Snowmass than it would be any place else in the country?
So there should be a baseline standard, obviously, of security, but there is a uniqueness to each airport. So sometimes travelers will say, well, the security looks different in this airport than another airport. And sometimes that is because of the airport configuration, what the checkpoint looks like, what the space limitations are, and things like that. But the bottom line is the traveling public should be assured that TSA, working as part of a multiple layers of security, so we're really the last line of defense in many respects, but as part of that multiple layers of security, that we are doing everything we can day in, day out, 365 days a year to keep the traveling public safe.
So tell us a little bit about where you come from. I see that you had a long career with the FBI.
So I've been the TSA administrator for a little over a year now, and prior to that I spent almost 27 years at the FBI, and since 9/11 really working in national security, counterterrorism. The last nearly 6 years at the FBI I was the deputy director, the number 2 official, overseeing all operations, basically like the chief operating officer.
So I would think that background would suit well to what your current position is.
It's been very helpful, and particularly as I see TSA situated on a continuum of national security for the United States. So we have at one end of the continuum the intelligence community. It really served as the best line of defense, and then others, my former colleagues at the FBI, the Joint Terrorism Task Forces, the nearly 800,000 state and local police and sheriff's deputies around the country, and then the American public. All those are layers of security before anybody ever gets to an airport. But if there is a terrorist who gets to the airport, then it's on the men and women of TSA to make sure through one of our multiple layers that we can detect that person and prevent them getting on aircraft. So as we move forward, I'm very interested in how we can provide the most effective security in the most efficient way. And part of that is using a risk-based security initiative, recognizing that the vast majority of travelers pose no risk or threat to aviation. And the more we can do to identify those people up front who pose little risk, obviously there's no guarantees, but little risk, and we can expedite their physical screening because we know more about them, because they've volunteered information about themselves, then the better job I think we can do. And so we are working on an initiative to that end, starting this fall in select airports, and also working with Customs Border Protection and their global entry program. Those people have been vetted in certain ways. So the idea is to get away from the one-size-fits-all construct that we've had since 9/11 and really work toward a more informed, common-sense approach.
Can you give us an example of who would be a low-risk person or among the people that would be low risk?
There's a number of groups of individuals, although we have to be careful anytime we do a grouping because there can always be an exception, as we've seen in a number of examples. But for example, those in government who perhaps have a top secret security clearance, there's been a lot of vetting done about them. They are in a position of trust. There are those who are in, for example, trusted traveler programs that the government already has, such as with Customs Border Protection. There are those frequent travelers who may not be part of one of these trusted traveler programs, but who fly so frequently, they're literally traveling every week. If we know more about that, for example, if you've been traveling between Aspen and Los Angeles and New York twice a month for the last 25 years, there's a possibility that you are a terrorist, but the odds are that you're a successful businesswoman, businessman, you're doing something that is not a threat to aviation. So if you're willing to share that information about your travel history and things with us, then we can make some better judgments about what type of physical screening you should receive at the airport.